Good morning. Welcome to Mantra 108. We are on our 21st day of our Pūrna mantra. So we've come through this 21-day journey acknowledging this idea of wholeness, completeness, fullness, that all of this divine consciousness is whole and complete and perfect, and we're a manifestation of that. So we too are whole and complete and perfect, and nothing can be taken away from that. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about this idea of surrender. Surrendering to the flow of life. Surrendering to the acknowledgement of this greater consciousness and being in the flow with that greater consciousness rather than, good morning Karen, rather than anchoring ourselves to the past or being anxious about the future. If we live in this moment of surrender, we can just sink into every moment and be present in every moment. And our mantra practice helps us to do that. So this idea of surrender, we want to try to surrender our ego. We want to try to surrender the ego and open the heart and accept that we can live in this moment with this higher purpose. Good morning. And so I want to read just a little bit again from this this book called The Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practices by Deborah Adaḥ. I love this little book. It's a sweet little simple book that helps us to understand these principles a little bit better. So I'm reading from the chapter about Aishvara Pradidhana, which is surrender to something bigger than ourselves, surrendering to that divine presence, which of course is inside of us. And our mantra practice, I remind you, helps us to get out of that mind state, that ego state, that emotional state that might overwhelm us, overcome us, and keep us anchored to the past or anxious about the future, instead of surrendering to the moment that we're in. So let me just read a little bit what Deborah says about this. As we learn to stop fighting life, we can begin to act skillfully. Control makes us rigid and tight and narrows our perspective. Getting rid of our armor opens a world of possibility and makes us lighter and more comfortable for the journey. We can monitor our moment-to-moment surrender to life by watching the inner sensations of contraction and expansion. So I want to stop right there for a second and say that when we're in these fear states, when we're in these anger states, where we're in these states of being anchored to the past or anxious about the future, we're contracting. We're contracting ourselves. When we're in our mantra practice, and when the benefits of our mantra practice spill over into our lives, we're in more of a state of expansiveness. Because this is what this divine consciousness is. This cosmic consciousness is a state of expansion. So We can monitor our moment-to-moment surrender to life by watching the inner sensations of contraction and expansion. Contraction is a feeling of constriction, a pulling in. Expansion is an opening, a creating of space and wonder. When we find ourselves in contraction, we're fighting life or we're fearful of life. When we find ourselves in expansion, we are in the flow of surrender. So there's an imagery that she uses now to help us grasp this concept of expansion and contraction, and I really like this. So she likens life to a flowing stream, and we are ice cubes in that stream. We're the same quality as the stream. However, we're frozen in our tensions and our fear. Our practice is to melt ourselves into the flow of the stream, becoming one with the flow of life. As we relax and release our rigid thoughts and our rigid muscles, we can begin to flow with life. And so this is what our mantra practice helps us to do. It helps us to relax into that stream, relax into that flow, rather than staying in our contracted state. And so this is a practice for me all the time, to get out of my rigid state of ego, my rigid state of the story I tell myself, the rigid state of my intrusive thoughts that happen all the time. It's a practice to bring myself out of this, bring myself out of the emotional roiling that might be going on around something that's happened in my life, and bring myself back to the present moment, and bring myself back to connecting with that expansiveness that is our true nature. Our true nature is not all of that other stuff. Our true nature is this openness, this expanding, this ease, sukha, this easiness. So as we continue our yoga, our mantra practices, the nada yoga, the yoga of sound, the yoga of sound-based practices, we train ourselves more and more to live in this moment, to live in this expanded state, to release our contraction. So those are my thoughts to leave you with this morning. I see that Cindy is rejoicing that this is our last day of our 21 days, that we made it. Yes, we did. Tomorrow morning, we start a new practice. This new practice, this mantra we'll do beginning tomorrow, again for 21 days, is a very short mantra. We've been doing multiple syllable, multiple line, more meaty Vedic mantras. This is an ancient mantra as well. I love this mantra because it will be so perfect for this moment that we're living in. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow morning. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow morning after we finish our practice today. And tomorrow morning we meet at 8 o'clock, and we'll continue to meet at 8 o'clock rather than 8:30. I think that our new practice, even including a little bit of me talking to you before we start our japa, our actual japa, will take only 30 minutes, about 30 minutes every day. So we'll be meeting from 8 to 8:30 rather than 8:30 to about 9:15. That will allow me not to have to switch our Wednesday morning practice because of the Yogasana class that I teach at 9. So with that, we'll get going. And so go ahead and settle yourself. If you don't feel like your jaw is open, you can do some of our jaw practices, our neck practices. But I think at this point in our mantras practice, we're pretty good at having an open mouth and an open jaw and an open head for the mantra. So please close your eyes. Begin to tune into the fullness of your breath. Begin to soften your skin and soften your muscles. Pressing up through the crown to make sure that the spine is still nice and long. Before we begin this final practice of our 21-day practice of our Purna mantra, I invite you to bring a little gratitude to your heart for the fullness of this practice, for this beautiful mantra that is ancient, an ancient Vedic mantra that we've been chanting. So I want you to imagine, because it's really not an imagining, it's a truth. Imagine all of the other people all over the globe who are chanting this mantra along with you. This is a mantra that's chanted everywhere by millions of people and has been chanted for thousands of years. First by the sages, then by the priests, and then by the householders. So you can know that as we add our voices to this mantra, we are joining thousands who have chanted it for thousands of years and who are chanting it now. Feel the power of that. And surrender to the flow of knowing that we are all connected through time, through space, through language, through geographic location. None of it matters. Through embodiment and through the transition to an eternal state, none of it matters. We're still all connected in chanting our mantra. Take one more inhale and then we'll begin. Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇam Idaṁ Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Ādāya Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇāt Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnāt Pūrṇam Udacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇam Ādāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Purnamada Purnamidam Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Pūrṇam Idaṁ, Pūrṇāt, Pūrṇam Udacyate, Pūrṇasya, Pūrṇam Ādāya, Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate, Pūrṇam Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Pūrṇamada Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudacyate. Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇam Evā Vaśiṣyate. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And so we've made it through 21 days of practicing the Purna mantra. And tomorrow morning we start a new one at 8 a.m. So I hope you'll join me and start this new practice that I believe is perfect for this moment in time. All right. See you in the morning. Love, love, love to you all.